All right, Lumberjack fans, we had a chance to talk early this morning with UNO head coach Millicent Van Norden, getting a chance to talk to former assistant, but that's getting to be in distant past now for SFA. Head coach, 4th season at UTPA American. Brian, thanks for taking the time for us to chat for a minute. Do things, have you adjusted in these 4 years? Feel like Edinburgh's home now? Has there been enough time to kind of feel like you're settled in?
You know, it was very different this trip. We actually drove through NAC on the way to get here, and so we stopped at Annie Pasta's and
you got to do that,
and all that. But that was the first time in probably three and a half years that I'd been in Nacogdoches, and you know, so South Texas has become home. You know, kids are in great schools. Kendall started kindergarten this year. Braden, who I've added since I left Nacogdoches, is now 2, and so. You know, great daycare there, and Kenzie's a sophomore playing JV dark up at.
That I can hardly believe because I can remember her running around the court there in Johnson Coliseum.
Absolutely.
You know, Brian, one of the things that I have noticed in both preparing for our match later today and just reviewing your club in general is so far this year you guys have been in a ton of matches. Record doesn't show that effort yet, but a lot of 4 and a lot of 5-set matches so far. What do you feel, including last night, because last night the first 2 sets both went long. What's the one more push? What's the one thing that turns some of those 31-29s in your favor?
We're struggling to find that finisher, that terminator. You know, we see it in glimpses in practice, day in and day out, from various people. We've got a few of them that are very capable, but because we've been so close yet so far, you know, on the wrong side of those close matches. You know, they get a little afraid at the end. We're up 24-19 last night in that first set, and it should have been over. And in my mind, that was a 3-set sweep, honestly. And we didn't finish. And we ran out of subs, and we got caught in kind of a little, you know, a situation they hadn't really been in before. And they battled, but it wasn't enough. We didn't have that one person that was willing to say, "Give me the ball right now." And that's disappointing. That's the frustrating part right now.
But something that during tournament season may emerge before you get into WAC play.
That's the plan. You know, that's what we're looking for. That's what, you know, we sat in the locker room last night and talked about that again. Unfortunately, it's again. But you know, that's that hump that we've been trying to get over now, actually for about 2 years. You know, unfortunately, the one that I thought was going to be the terminator last year. We're 10-4 at the time. We were about to start WAC play, first year in the WAC, and we lose her for the season with a shoulder injury. 2 matches later, I lose my libero with an ACL. I've got, you know, a couple others that in and out. You know, I ended up with 3 out for the season, and a few other injuries that were keeping starters out. And so, you know, we turned a 10-4 season into a 13-20 overall season. And so that, you know, we'd started to really turn that corner and gain that confidence, and then we took those hits, and it kind of shattered us for a little bit.
I guess just because of your geography that you still remain familiar with the Southland. You've already played Sam Houston, of course, right. New Orleans and us. I know you're going to see Texas A&M Corpus Christi next week. How integrated are you to still keeping up with what goes on here in Southland Conference volleyball?
I definitely keep tabs. You know, Corpus is somebody that we play home and home year in and year out. We get a chance to see a variety. You know, last year it was McNeese and Central Arkansas and all that. Came back with Sam and SFA this year and New Orleans. Incarnate Word we've started kind of keeping tabs with year in and year out. So we're definitely, you know, I kind of measure us that way a little bit. You know, right now it's been, you know, the last 3 weeks, you know, number 3, number 4, number 5 in the Southland as far as preseason picks, and knowing that we're battling, we're right there. I mean, that's a good benchmark. It's a good measuring tool because I was so familiar and am so familiar with 6 years in the Southland. And so, you know, we judge that, but you know, there's a lot of teams in the Southland that will prepare us for some of those matches in the WAC, and so that's, you know, that's the goal.
One of the last times you and I talked was a couple years ago when we intersected again at, I believe it was UT Arlington.
Correct, yes.
And at that time, you know, you guys were, the conference affiliation thing was forefront in your mind. Do you feel like joining the WAC has helped spread the word? I know that conference is still geographically very spread, and some of your Great West colleagues are in there with you. But
Correct.
Do you feel like overall that the WAC affiliation has helped create a greater visibility for UTPA volleyball?
Honestly, when I'm out recruiting, you know, we've put WAC on our shirts and on our jackets because that's what people know. So they definitely, that's the affiliation more than UTPA, and especially now with our merger coming up, used soon to be UTRGB, nobody's going to know who that is initially, but they know the WAC, they know the establishment of the WAC, they know, they may still think that Hawaii's there and all
Yes,
that, but
right.
but still, there's a named conference that's been there for a long time, and that's the draw that we've received.
What about on campus? I read in, I believe it was your bio or a recap of your season last year, that there at home you guys were second in attendance in the WAC. I looked back at some of those figures and occasionally drawing up near 1,000, 500, regularly 800. Have you seen in the 4 years you've been there a little bit of an uptick in the culture of being able to bring people in your gym?
It's definitely been, been something that's been on our mind and been a push for us, and we have seen the growth over the last couple of years. We have been at 1,000, even I think maybe 11 or 1,200 a couple different times. Averaging about 650, 700 in there for the overall season, which is, it's great. We've broken the attendance record, I think, 3 years running now, and so, we've got to get the culture ingrained in the game of volleyball. We on campus just added soccer this year, women's soccer, so that's a big draw. Hoping to kind of play off of each other a little bit to even increase our attendance more. Hoping that it doesn't go the other way and draw them away from us. But we had a solid turnout. A couple 800 plus matches here when we were home last week with our home tournament. So I think we'll be about the same. But it's been a big push. We've gotten involved in the community, both myself and my assistants with the club programs that are down there and running adult tournaments and things on campus for fundraisers. And so there is a significant volleyball community down there, and we've been tapping into it as quickly as we can.
With the advent of social media, the web, Twitter, all playing a role now in how we all communicate, gain information, various teams have done different things with how they list their rosters. I happen to notice on your roster on your webpage that you list all of your girls' majors. Was that something that is an athletic-wide intent? Was that something that you looked at? That communicated something to me, and I wanted to ask you about that listing of all those girls' majors out there on the volleyball roster.
It wasn't something that I came up with. That credit really goes to Jonah Goldberg, our sports information director, who does a great job with all sports and across campus and everything that he's doing to promote television shows and radio shows and things like that. But I think it's important. They are there to be those students first. We're working on the volleyball side of things, but it's important to see how well-rounded they can be, and people notice that.
You talked about there's becoming more of a volleyball presence in the Valley. What do you feel like from your time at SFA, and again, your familiarity with the Southland? What's different about recruiting where you are geographically compared to what we might even see in that? Clearly it's different than if your school is near Dallas or Fort Worth or Austin. But what's different in terms of recruiting for you?
Everything. We're not easy to get to. It's a significant trip to even in-state kids to get down there. At SFA they could drive in and drive out day of and have a quick visit and things like that. So nothing happens too quickly. Honestly, I've gone the route recently of even in-state kids, if we can get them to fly in, whether it's an unofficial or official visit, if we can fly them in, because of where we are. We actually have a Border Patrol checkpoint an hour north of campus.
Wow.
And so if they drive in, their last recollection of the visit is going through and being asked their citizenship. And it wasn't something I thought about going down there. And honestly, I brought it up to my athletic director one day, and he hadn't necessarily even thought about that. But that was the last remembrance of the visit. And whether it truly affected it, it was still something that was on the mind in decisions and things like that. Where we are, on campus, we're over 21,000 now, but it's significant as far as commuter population. So we get on campus, and it's a great looking campus. It honestly is, but we have 500 beds basically on campus, and half of those really are student athletes that are living on campus. So it's completely different. It's not a college town where everything
Right.
that's going on campus is what's happening in town, and that support, you know, we really have to do our work to bring people in and make it a good show and a good presence, and then, you know, sell the family atmosphere that we're trying to build and all that. You know, that's no different than what we did at SFA, but, you know, that's, you know, like I said, there's so many other things, and, you know, location, we sell the beach, we sell the coastline,
Right.
we try and sell all those things. But it's a different sales job.
It does sound like especially the difference between the commuter and SFA is just so residential there.
Absolutely.
And last question, Brian, let's talk about some of your players that we'll see today. I also noticed on your roster that you have your seniors designated as captains on your roster, and it looks like, both from looking at the roster and watching the match last night against Louisiana Tech, that you do have a mix of some veterans, but you also played some very new girls, some freshmen. You had sophomore, who's your kill leader right now, in Alicia Watson. Last night you turned to freshman setter in Mary Kay Clark. Talk a little bit about how those young players meshed with Marchant, your libero, and Clayforth, your middle blocker. How's that duality between some senior leadership and also some new kids too?
It's been different. You know, with Nasheen, my senior libero, you know, she came over from Panola, so this is actually only her second year in the program. She did come in, you know, spring of her sophomore year, so she's been in the program, but then she was out with an ACL last year. So, you know, she's coming back in and learning some of the ropes. And Maria's been in the program a long, long time. Macy Singleton has been with me all the way through, Christopher Freitas, De'Ara Reynolds. So we do have that core that, you know, understands what I'm looking for. But, you know, we do need that youth. You know, it's been interesting. I've been, you know, this is year 4, and I've graduated 4 seniors in the time. You know, we had 1 last year and 3 the year before that, and that's it. You know, I walked into a program that was all sophomores and freshmen, and so it's been a process. It's been difficult. It's been fun. I've learned a lot about both, you know, myself and the team, but you know, it's definitely a work in progress. You know, it is 2 new setters this year. So, you know, whether it's the junior or the freshman, you know, it's still a learning curve that they're trying to get used to me and my system and all that. So it helps to have that established base around them. But, you know, I expect big things out of our sophomore class. Our freshman class is very capable. They don't know it yet, or they don't seem to believe it yet, but they're very capable. And those are the 2 classes that I've really had the most time to get to know in the recruiting process. This senior group was one that was very quick. You know, I came in the end of January, and there were 5 open scholarships at that point in time. So these were the kids that I brought in then, late in the process. You know, but the junior class was one that, you know, right now it's really Haley and Casey, who, you know, unfortunately Casey, I just found out, you know, lost her for the season yesterday with a shoulder. But you know, Haley's been that one who's kind of been a standout for us at the middle blocker position. So, you know, we're relying on all our classes. We've got a bigger roster this year, you know, and everybody's a significant role and has a significant, you know, place to play in what we're doing.
Fans, Brian Yale, head coach of the Bronx of UT Pan American. We'll get a look at them today at noon. They also get a look at our opponent that we had last night in New Orleans in this match. Brian, always good to catch up with you on the circuit.
Absolutely.
Hope we see you around again. Thanks for being willing to sit and chat.
Thanks, Greg.